Hey YouTube, it's me again. I thought I'd try something new today. I guess arts and crafts have been a big part of my recovery, and so I need to make a box for my sister for to put one of her Christmas presents in. So I have this calendar here that's I thought she might like it. I'm gonna make it out one of the pages in here. Anyway, the other reason is I've been having some bad body image issues lately, and so I thought this was going to be a good way to deal with that, because I really don't feel like having my face out there for everyone to see right now. So anyway, so what's been going on with me is that as you guys know, I was worried about my anatomy and physiology final. I needed to get an 80 on the final in order to get a C+ in the class so that I could apply for the nursing program. And like, it turned out that I got a 76 on the final, so I didn't quite get that C. So that means I get to retake the class during summer school, which I'm less than thrilled about. And like, I'd already prepared myself for the possibility that that was what was gonna happen, you know? And so I'd already made a choice about what sort of attitude I was gonna have about it. But it was still just really disappointing to find out, and you know, I still like what I had told myself is, you know, I've been putting it in God's hands all along, and you know, just gonna choose to trust that He knows, you know, He knows what He's doing. And like, you know, I mean, but it's totally still my fault that I like got a C in the class, you know, so I'm not saying like He made me get a C, but He did allow me to get a C. And I know that He still has plans to make things go, you know, so that they're really good for me. His plan is never to do something like that would make us worse off or whatever. So sometimes it's just not the way we do it. So, you know, even though I had all that in mind, like, it was still just sad to learn that, yeah, I actually, you know, am going to have to repeat the class. And I have a really hard time with, like, separating my grades from my self-worth, and just knowing that, you know, I'm still valuable as a person even when I don't do well, you know, in school or whatever. And so that was kind of hard. But what I ended up doing was, like, I called my dad and talked to him, and that was really helpful, because, like, well, first of all, my dad just, like, validated that it was okay to be upset about it. And, you know, like, I was crying, and he was able to get me to try and think about, like, some other possibilities, you know, and just that it's not the end of the world, just that I got that. And, you know, he definitely was reminding me about just the fact that, like, you know, whatever the path is, that God has my best interest in mind. So it was helpful to talk to him, but I was and am still pretty upset about it, and just having a hard time with it. But overall, I think I'm doing alright. It's kind of embarrassing, but, you know, whatever. So anyway, so let's see. Other than that, I've been trying to get enrolled in the community mental health services here in my state, like the state provided ones. And like, I've been so frustrated, because like, I've been trying to get this since like November 10th, I guess is what they said when I was there. So I was like, whatever. Anyway, today I finally had the appointment with them to get that going. And like, this is messed up, why? Okay, so, anyway, it went well. Like, I had been enrolled in the mental health services in Arizona, and, it was not as nearly as pleasant, you know, as this one was. Like, these people were really caring and understanding, and, like, kind of viewed you as a person, and, like, Arizona really wasn't like that. I had these two guys doing it, and they were like really kind and everything, and like, it turned out the psychiatrist that I was seeing, like, well, what ended up happening was I had to, the clinician who I was supposed to see called out for the day, like I was supposed to be on his team or whatever, and so they had this other guy fill in, and it turned out that the guy who filled in has a 20-year-old daughter who struggles with an eating disorder, and has for several years, and so he's like really knowledgeable about them. And like one of the things I've always found with like public mental health is that the people don't really know anything about eating disorders, which is frustrating because you have to like educate them as you go. And so that wasn't going to be an issue with this guy, and I really, you know, just appreciated that. Bad thing is you can't really sneak anything over on him, but you know, whatever. So anyways, it's kind of awkward to have to do like an intake, and any of you who've ever done one for outpatient or inpatient or whatever know you're like, you have to give like your whole history like right there, and like, you know, like abuse history, trauma history, all your behaviors, and it's just like, it's kind of intimidating because, you know, that stuff's really personal, and these people are strangers, and you know, like all that. So, but like the cool thing was these people actually were aware of those feelings and that they were human, where, you know, in Arizona they didn't care. They just wanted you to spit it out quickly because, you know, they had other stuff to do. And I'm not trying to criticize that. I know, you know, like, I know they have stuff going on, but I mean, man, it just sure was nice to be treated like a person. So anyway, so the other thing about sharing that is like there's so much information that, like, you know, it's hard to remember every single thing, like when they ask about behaviors and, you know, like different health issues, whatever, you know, it's hard to remember like everything you need to say right then and there. So then I end up feeling like I'm lying by omitting things, even though it's really not so much that I was lying, you know, but that I just either forgot, or else, like, sometimes, like, there's some things that are in my history that, like, would never be a standard question to be asked for an intake, and but are still, like, prudent to my particular situation. And so, like, like, I feel bad not mentioning it, because I feel like that's a way of, you know, lying by omission, but I also feel like if I do mention it, like, that I'm like an attention whore or something like that, and that they just would think bad things about me or something. I don't know, maybe that's silly, but anyway, so afterwards I was like, oh crap, I didn't mention this, I didn't mention that, you know, whatever. But anyways, so there's that, and the other thing with it is that, like, when you have to say all your history, like, it's hard to be able to, like, preface things and to say, like, I just have a hard time feeling like wanting to give, like, the most accurate representation of my history as possible, you know, and, like, I always feel like whatever I say, like, they're going to think that my behaviors and issues were worse than they were, and I don't want them to, like, think that I was all serious, you know, like, that my problem was worse than it was, because then I feel like I'm over-exaggerating and lying to them, and, like, I just feel like I'm lying a lot. So, anyway, that's just hard, and it's just part of an intake procedure. That's just the way it goes when you do those. So, then we get down to the guy, the clinician, asked my weight, and, like, man, that was hard, because, like, last night I had a total meltdown about my weight, like, obviously by myself, in my own room, just about my weight, my body image, you know, like, last night was just not a good night to be, you know, me, in my head, you know, they say, my head's a bad neighborhood to be in after dark. It was like that, so I really didn't want to answer him, but, you know, after some squirming and negotiating, and, well, maybe not negotiating, but coaching, for sure, like, I finally just told him, and, he was like, well, he's like, why don't we go down the hall, and we'll weigh you, you don't have to look at it, or whatever, and, you know, because we all know you don't really weigh that, and I was like, are you saying that I look like I weigh more than that, you know, like, what are you saying exactly, what's the deal, and,